the kite that helped in the discovery of electricity. On June 15, 1952, in Philadelphia, Benjamin Franklin was all set to prove that lightning from the cloud is electrical by flying a kite in a storm. It was a practical demonstration that was about to make history. Similar experiments have been conducted in the past to extract electric fire from clouds using iron rods erected into the sky. However, these experiments proved to be fatal and resulted in the death of the person conducting them. Knowing all this, Franklin and his son William Franklin used a kite instead of an iron rod to demonstrate the experiment. They succeeded without any harm being done and thus proved that the lightning from clouds is electrical. This was just one of Franklin's experiments about electricity in the 18th century. Other scientists were also involved and attempted various methods to prove the subject. Thomas Francois Dalibard of France conducted Franklin's experiment using a 40-foot tall iron rod instead of a kite, successfully extracting electrical sparks from a cloud. George Wilhelm Richmond in Russia and others were electrocuted while conducting lightning experiments in the months following Franklin's experiment. But Franklin was careful enough to stand on an insulator, staying dry under a roof to avoid the risk of electric shock. This was just a glimpse of how curious the world was about electricity. When there was no knowledge of electricity, many scientists and people from the past were aware of the shocks that nature could produce. Franklin's experiment was one of many experiments conducted by scientists to understand electricity and electric current. So it was the collective experiments related to electricity that led to the discovery of electricity, which eventually illuminated in the lives of many people. So, are you wondering how humankind has evolved from a time where there was no electricity to the point where electricity has become a necessity? Well, let's find out. Here's the history of electricity. See, ancient Egyptians knew the electric fish, which was referred to as the thunderer of the Nile and was also described as the protector of all other fish. The Egyptians would use similar fish to treat arthritis pain. Based on the 1936 discovery, the Parthians must have known electroplating. In the discovery, a battery now termed as Baghdad battery, resembling a galvanic cell, was found. It is believed that they were using these batteries for electroplating materials, although no evidence of electroplated materials was found during the discovery. Electricity was only a curiosity until a scientist named William Gilbert wrote The Magnet, in which he conducted several experiments and studied electricity and magnetism. He discovered that when amber was rubbed with cat's fur, it could attract light objects. People were reluctant and scared to accept this concept as science. In the 6th century BC, the Greek philosopher Thales of Miletus also experimented with amber rods, which were one of the first studies into the production of electricity. This method could only lift light objects and generate sparks, which was highly inefficient. Many other scientists made significant contributions to the field of electricity through their experiments during the 17th and 18th centuries. In October 1745, a German cleric named Ewald Georg von Kleist and Peter van Oostenbroek of Leiden, Netherlands, independently invented an electrical component that could store a high voltage electric charge between electrical conductors and the inside and outside of a glass jar. This jar is called a Leyden jar. The kite experiment conducted by Benjamin Franklin was only one of the many experiments conducted during the apparatus. This invention was of fundamental importance during the early stages of electrical discovery. Leyden jars are still used in education to demonstrate the principle of electrostatics. Luigi Galvani in 1791 discovered that electricity was the medium in which neurons pass signals to the muscles. In 1800, Alexander's experiment having alternating layers of zinc and copper led to the invention of the voltaic pile, which then became the most reliable source of energy which could be consumed based on the scientist's need. And its descendant electrical batteries are used extensively today to store the energy chemically and make it available based on demand in the form of electricity. Volta also showed that electricity could travel from one place to another by wire, and for all the contributions that Volta has made. The unit of electric potential is volt, named after Volta. When it comes to the generation of electric power, in the early days and even today, mechanical generators were driven by either steam produced from fossil fuel combustion or heat from nuclear reactions, wind, and flowing water. All these generators were based on Michael Faraday's invention of a Faraday's disc, wherein moving a magnet inside a coil of wire makes electric current flow in the wire. This was the first operational electricity generator which is even used in the generators that we use today. On October 21, 1879, Thomas Alva Edison's invention of the incandescent light bulb and the power system created a future that was bright and full of many more possibilities. Though electricity was generated until the invention of the transformer, in the 19th century, it was difficult to fully utilize the benefits of electricity and its availability was limited to the immediate vicinity of the power plant. The invention of the transformer, with the contribution of Nikola Tesla and many other scientists, meant that electricity could be transmitted to longer distances with the generation being made at centralized power stations. Now, let us learn the ancient India's invention of electricity. In the Prince's Library of Ujjain, India, there is a document called the Agastya Samhita dating back to the first millennium BC. This document contains a detailed description and step-by-step instructions on how to construct electric batteries. Many researchers and scholars have delved into Sanskrit texts and successfully translated and deciphered the information contained with them. Research has been conducted by replicating the same steps outlined in the book and measuring the voltage, which yielded a value 1.138 volts. This indicates that the Indian sages were well informed about the scientific world around them and were very keen on utilizing it. The first demonstration of electric light in India was conducted in mid-1970 in Kolkata. Bengaluru was the first city to receive electricity. Now, electricity is today. Let's now see how electricity is today. Electricity today is generated in the following four major ways: wind, flowing water, combustion of natural resources like coal, fossil fuel and nuclear reactions. With these resources being inconsistent and renewable, solar panels came into existence, which again use solar energy for the generation of electricity. We should note here that the environmental concerns surrounding the generation of electricity using fossil fuels and other resources have prompted people to seek more reliable and efficient methods of generating electricity, both for the benefit of humanity and the environment. Now, electricity in the future is way more interesting. Electricity generation in the future is very likely to change because of the environmental harms that are being caused. And to zero this down, we need more reliable and green electricity to replace the usage of fossil fuels and the emissions of CO2 to the atmosphere. Hence, there has been a greater focus on wind and solar panel these days, and many more other strategies, which we never fall short of, continue to make our world a better place to live. See you in our next video. Like, share and subscribe for more similar content. Thank you.